I am so excited to be talking about this. I'm swiping a whole chapter from one of my most favorite books ever. This is a book called Motivational Interviewing by Stephen Rollnick and William Richard Miller. This book changed my life. It changed my career. It changed the way I see everything. Because I realized through reading this book that I started my career not from a most empowering space. I realized that I started it from all the wrong reasons. I started my coaching business and I started my coaching career because I genuinely believe that people are broken, people are problematic, and it is my duty to go and fix them. And through reading this book, I came to that realization, but it was not an easy realization. This chapter, which could be explained like some YouTube videos, take 6.5 minutes to explain the entire chapter. It took me 3 hours to read, not because it is difficult to understand, but it is so difficult because it was so jarring emotionally to me at that point in time. Just now we have covered all the different kinds of questions and we have talked about what makes a powerful question powerful. But how do you actually become the kind of person who can ask powerful questions without the spirit, without the beingness of asking powerful questions? All the tools that we learn, all the coaching tools, all the MI tools, all the tools that we learn are just ways to manipulate people to do things they don't want to do. Motivational interviewing is, in a nutshell, a way of questioning people in such a way that the truth will come to light. That if they need to take action, they will take action. If they don't need to take action, they will not take action. It is, to me, something which is extremely powerful. Motivational interviewing has been used to cure addiction, to help people overcome trauma. It is used in grief counseling. It is used in many different areas, many applications. But as I read this, I found another application in behavioral change. And ever since I read that book, I've been using it for the rest of my career to the best extent of my ability. And I want to bring it over into this topic of questioning people, because what I found to be the single most biggest limiting factor that prevents people from asking powerful questions is that most people let their shit get in the way. They let their biases get in the way. They let their agendas get in their way. They have so much intention within themselves that they stop paying attention. And without the ability to pay attention, no question is powerful. There are 4 spirits of motivational interviewing. I have added in a few things over there to let you guys see the contrast between the two, the actual way and the less productive way. I put it on opposite ends of the spectrum so you can see very clearly what is the spirit that makes it work and what is the spirit that makes it not work. Let's begin the first one. The first spirit of motivational interviewing is partnership. When it comes to partnership, the expert has expertise in the subject matter while the client knows themselves better than anyone. The expert says, okay, like I know all this stuff in whatever field that I am in, but the clients are the ones that knows themselves better than anyone. The opposite of partnership is paternalism. The expert thinks that they are the only expert in the room. They know exactly what a client needs to do and they try to convince them in some ways to change. In partnership, the expert and the client work together as equals. In a paternalistic relationship, the questioner, the client, is a passive recipient of the expert's expertise, which means that they are supposed to just sit and they're just supposed to listen and shut up and not give any argument, not give any objection. They're just supposed to do as they're told. In a partnership, questioning is done with and for a client. Whereas in paternalism, the questioning techniques are done onto a client. They are done to a client. In a partnership, the expert is genuinely interested and supportive in the client's decision, which means that if the client says no, it is no. If the client says yes, yes. The expert does not persuade. The expert does not debate. The expert does not argue with the client. In a paternalistic relationship, the expert tries to persuade, debate, argue. In other words, they just want to debate the client into submission. The idea and the underlying belief is that the only person who can come up with a solution is the expert. The client is stupid, right? The client have no say. The client is supposed to just sit there and listen. In a partnership relationship, expert is merely a companion and witness to change, which means that they are there not to cause the change to happen. They have very low form of ego. They are there to witness your transformation. All the credit goes to you. Whereas in a paternalistic relationship, the expert directs and is directly responsible for the cause of the client's change. So they take all the credits. So that's the first dynamic, the first spirit, the shift that we need to make as a questioner in whatever relationship we're in, okay, is the shift to go from paternalism into partnership. In whoever it is that we are engaging with, we are partners with them. Even when we are questioning them, we are not questioning from a space of trying to lead them somewhere or trying to establish our superiority over them. None of that nonsense. It's literally from a space of being genuinely interested about them as a person. So some interesting questions to ask ourselves. What is it like to be on the receiving end of both partnership and paternalism? What is it like to be in a partnership? What is it like to be in a paternalistic relationship? When and where is it quote unquote appropriate to use partnership and paternalism? Because there is, no matter how it sounds like over here, as I laid all out, there is a time and space to use paternalistic relationships. Where? And there are certain times where it is not appropriate to use partnership as well. The key and the understanding here is to know when to use which. Where in life do you personally expect partnership and paternalism? I can tell you that when I go into a learning course, just to learn only, not to go into any coaching program, I would not expect partnership. I would expect paternalism. Like, I want to be told what to do. But there are also times where I expect to have my own say, and I expect to be respected for who I am. So that's the first one. Partnership, paternalism. The second one, acceptance versus self-righteousness. I love this part. The second spirit of motivational interviewing is acceptance. A deep appreciation for the client and their worldview. Change it to any form of questioning context. A deep appreciation for the person who you're talking to and their worldview. Whereas the opposite is self-righteousness. The client's worldview or way of thinking is faulty. And according to MI, there are 4 different characteristics of acceptance, 4 traits of acceptance. The first one is absolute worth. It is a profound acceptance of the inherent worth and potential of every human being on planet Earth, everywhere. Whereas doubting worth, which is the opposite, is the belief that the worth of someone is measured against a certain standard based on their attributes, based on their attitude, and their usefulness to other people. So absolute worth sees everyone as perfect. A half-bloomed flower is not any less perfect than a fully bloomed flower. At that point in time, perfect at this stage of their life, right now. Everything is happening in accordance to the laws of the universe, and it couldn't be any other way. So there's a deep acceptance of someone's worth, whereas doubting worth is constantly comparing people against somebody else. Second one, accurate empathy, reflects the expert's effort to understand the world from the client's point of view. The effort, because we are not psychics, we can't really read somebody else's mind. The expert makes a whole lot of effort to try and understand the world from the client's point of view. Whereas the opposite end is psychic projection. I use quote unquote psychic projection because the expert assumes to know what the client is thinking. And that's dangerous. Even in NLP, we learn that there is a deletion, distortion, generalization, the 3 different kinds of filters that our brain puts it through. So deletion means that whatever information that we cannot be with, it will not even enter our consciousness. Distortion means whatever information that is coming into our awareness is distorted based on our own personal baggage and our belief systems. Generalization is making blanket statements in a way that does not necessarily reflect the full truth or the general truth. And we all have these filters: deletion, distortion, generalization. So when we have these filters and we think that we don't have any filter and we assume to know what the client is thinking, that's dangerous. And so the person tries to impose their point of view. The client is trying to say, no, this is what I believe. And then expert says, no, this is what you believe. And so the entire conversation becomes extremely unproductive. The third one is autonomy of support, which is the belief that everyone has an irrevocable right for self-determination. So someone who truly embodies autonomy support, whatever the client believes they need to do, the person would question, but the person would protect and acknowledge their right to do whatever it is that they want to do. They will empower them in the truest sense. Empower means we are allowing them to say yes or to say no. Whereas someone who is the complete opposite of this thinks that empowering means I need to force them to do what I want so that they can get the power to get what they want. The opposite of autonomy and support is accountability or saving. They believe that the client doesn't know any better. They need to be the one who decide what's best for the client, making them change. And they will try to coerce and control the client all the time. The fourth trait of acceptance is affirmation. Affirmation means the person is constantly on the lookout to acknowledge the client's positive characteristics and effort. They acknowledge them all the time. They're constantly on the lookout for their intentions, for their efforts. Whatever constitutes to them what is positive, they would affirm those behaviors. Whereas the assessment mindset is the need to constantly look for what is wrong. What is wrong with this person? What is wrong with this person? What is wrong with this person? And then they try to fix it. So some interesting question. What existing beliefs do you have that was challenged as you go about this topic? For me, when I was going through this topic, everything over here is how I was living my life on a day-to-day basis. This was, I think, like 8 years ago or something. Long time ago. And it was so difficult for me to accept this. Like this whole thing here, to me, it was anathema to my philosophy of life at that point in time. So it was a huge struggle for me. Now, second question, looking inwards, speaking honestly, how much of your motivation for starting your career came from a place of righteousness? And how much of it came from a place of acceptance? And the third question is, what's the biggest challenge about embodying absolute acceptance that you can detect within yourself? The third trait is compassion. Compassion is the ability of someone to empathize, to resonate with the suffering, the plight, and the needs of others, and to help them alleviate those things. Whereas manipulation is the opposite end of compassion. They prioritize the alleviation of suffering and fulfilling the needs of themselves. It is the difference between client-centeredness and self-centeredness. Because when you are asking people questions, the attention shouldn't be on you. The attention should be on the other person. So client-centeredness guides the expert to prioritize the needs and welfare of the client above their own in that session, in that questioning session. Whereas self-centeredness, the expert prioritizes self-interest and maybe even exploitation to get more out of the client, even if it means they are at a disadvantage. And for sure, the relationship of compassion will lead to long-term trusting relationship, whereas a manipulative relationship will cause it to become precarious and in short-term. Now, an interesting question to ask ourselves is, one of the things I love doing is going into the dark side. Let's go to the dark side and really understand it so that we can take a look at it and observe it properly. What is so good about being manipulative, actually? And what's so good about being compassionate, actually? What's so good about both? The second question is, pragmatically speaking, what are the dangers of or potential risk of staying in the light of client-centeredness? And the third question is, how can you manage this risk so that you can stay compassionate and be effective while at the same time protecting your own interests? And that's the third one. And the fourth and the final one is evoking versus providing. When it comes to an expert motivational interviewer, they have this belief that the client have strengths, resources, thoughts, ideas, solutions, motivation, expertise, wisdom, experience that can be tapped for behavioral change, whereas providing has the belief that the client is missing something that only the expert can provide. So it is a difference between empowered and dependent, because in an empowered relationship, the expert genuinely believes that the client already have all the resources within them to make the change. It's not about empowerment, it's empowered. The client is already empowered. They just didn't know it yet. Whereas the dependent relationship, the expert believes that the client cannot move unless the expert is involved. So the expert must always be involved. The expert wants to string them along. The expert wants the client to rely on them for long term. Reinforcement. They see the client as enough and they're just reminding them about the powers that they already have within them. Whereas fixing sees the clients as broken, and it is up to the expert alone to fix the client because the client is not able to do so by themselves. And over here, we can already see a huge difference. All of the manipulative sales tactics and all the manipulative marketing techniques that we hate is all on this right side over here. Whereas the one that we stay with, the one that we like, the one that we are here for, are all on the left. So the question here is, what's the benefit of both sides of the coin to the expert? What's so good about evoking and providing? What's difficult about believing that the client already have all the resources that they need in order to change? And if we, as the experts, are not here to fix, then what exactly are we here for? And so to end this, I would like to summarize the entire topic into just 6 things. The word client here can be changed to anyone, okay? Everyone appears as Buddhas in the eyes of a Buddha. It's a famous Buddhist saying. Everyone appears as pigs in the eyes of a pig. The key that binds every single lessons over here in this module is self-awareness, self-observation, our own consciousness. I can summarize all this into 6 questions and into 6 basic summaries. Number 1, clients are important, unique, and worthwhile. All of them are important. All of them are unique. All of them are worthwhile. The clients work together with experts to find solutions to problems. Client strengths and expertise are respected. Rich Litvin once said that he never takes on a client that he doesn't respect. Every person that he works with, he's inspired by his clients. He's not the kind of person who inspires his client, he's inspired by his clients. Number 4, clients' needs are ahead of the expert's needs. They are always putting the client's needs above their own. The client has wisdom, knowledge, and motivation already. There's no need to instill more wisdom, knowledge, and motivation. That is the default belief that they have. And finally, the client maintains the option to change or not to change their own behavior. That is empowerment.